All right, welcome. Cybersecurity can feel like this huge, incredibly complicated world, right? Well, today we're going to map it all out. We're using a really solid blueprint, the Cisco security curriculum, to see exactly how the pros built the digital defenses that protect us every single day. So let's start with a big question. Think about it. We live in a world of constant digital threats. Data's flying everywhere, all the time. So who is actually standing on guard? Who's protecting all of it? And the answer, of course, is the cybersecurity professional. These are the network defenders, the threat hunters, the digital first responders. They're fighting on a battlefield you can't even see, but one that affects pretty much every part of our modern lives. But here's the thing. They don't just wander into this battle unprepared. No way. Their training, their strategies, their whole understanding of defense, it all comes from structured knowledge. So think of certifications, like the ones from Cisco, as the detailed blueprints they use to build and defend our digital world. Okay, so with that, let's start our guided tour of this digital battlefield. We're going to walk through the core strategies of modern network defense, and all of it is drawn straight from the Cisco security curriculum. Every great defense has to start with a rock-solid foundation. So in part one, we're going to look at the core principles of building a secure network from the ground up. Establishing strength before the first attack even thinks about showing up. At the absolute heart of all security is this concept called the CIA triad. And honestly, every single decision a security pro makes is meant to protect one of these three things. First, confidentiality, which is just about keeping secrets secret. Then, integrity, making sure data hasn't been messed with. And finally, availability, which is just what it sounds like, making sure you can actually get to your data when you need it. Now, to enforce that triad, you first have to understand the lay of the land. A network is basically split into three different planes. You've got the management plane, which is how admins actually configure all the gear. Then there's the control plane, which is how all those devices talk to each other. And finally, the data plane. That's where our actual traffic, our emails and web browsing, flows. An attack on any one of these planes could bring the whole thing down. So how do you control who gets in and what they can do? Well, that's where the AAA framework comes in. It's a really simple but super powerful idea. First is authentication, which asks, who are you, and makes you prove it. Then comes authorization, which says, okay, I know who you are, but what are you actually allowed to do? And finally, there's accounting, which logs everything and asks, so what did you do while you were here? And this right here shows how those big ideas turn into really critical choices. When you're setting up AAA, you have to pick a protocol, and choosing between something like TACAX Plus and Radius, well, it's not just a technical detail, it's a strategic decision. See, TechX Plus encrypts the entire conversation and uses the reliable TCP protocol. It's the choice you make for maximum security. These are the kinds of real-world decisions that define how strong a network really is. All right, our fortress is built on solid principles. Now it's time to post some guards at the gates. This next part is all about the active technologies that are constantly watching traffic and defending the perimeter. And the most fundamental gatekeeper of them all is the firewall. Its job is simple, but it's absolutely crucial. It inspects every single piece of data trying to get in or out, and based on a very strict set of rules, it decides you can pass or nope, you're blocked. It is the primary wall between your trusted internal network and the wild, untrusted internet. Now, inside the gates, you have even more specialized guards. An intrusion detection system, or IDS, is kind of like a security camera. It sees something suspicious and it sends an alert. Super useful. But an intrusion prevention system, an IPS, that's more like an active guard who not only sees the threat, but actually steps in and stops it. A common mistake is just relying on detection, which is like knowing someone broke in, but having no way to stop them. But what about all your users who aren't physically inside the fortress? Remote workers? That's where VPN is key. It basically creates a secure, encrypted tunnel right over the public internet. This lets someone connect to the company network as if they were sitting right there in the office, and all their data is completely shielded from prying eyes. And the crucial point here is that you can't just use one tool for everything. You need specialized defenses for specific types of attacks. A firewall might guard the main gate, but you need other tools for other ways in. For instance, Cisco has a web security appliance to filter malicious websites, an email security appliance to scan for phishing attacks, and something called Advanced Malware Protection, or AMP, that hunts for threats directly on people's computers. And now we get to the human element. You can have the strongest fortress and the best guards in the world, but you still need someone up in the watchtower looking over everything and connecting the dots. So, welcome to the Security Operations Center, or SOC. This is the nerve center of our digital fortress. When an alarm finally does go off, you need an elite team that's ready to spring into action. That's the CSIRT, the Computer Security Incident Response Team. Think of them as the digital firefighters or paramedics. Their one and only job is to handle security incidents as quickly and effectively as possible to minimize the damage. And the response isn't just chaos. It's a very clear, well-defined process. It all starts with preparation, long before anything bad happens. When an incident is detected, they move to analysis to figure out what's going on. Then comes the really intense part: containment, eradication, and recovery to fix the problem. And finally, and this is so important, post-incident activity, where they learn lessons to make the defenses even stronger next time. But what if a threat is so sophisticated that it slips past all the alarms? That's where threat hunting comes in. This is the difference between having a smoke detector and having a guard who is actively patrolling the hallways. Incident response waits for an alert. Threat hunters go looking for trouble, proactively searching for those faint signals of an intruder who's trying to stay hidden. And this really gets to the heart of why that watchtower is so important. In cybersecurity, you have to assume that a breach is inevitable. The real question isn't if an attack will happen, it's when. And the whole job of the SOC is to make sure the organization is ready for that moment. So, after all that, what's the big picture? Let's put the pieces together and look at the complete blueprint for defense. First, and this is so critical to understand, the technology we talked about, the firewalls, the IPS, the VPNs, that's only one piece of the puzzle. Just going out and buying the latest, greatest security gadget, that is not a strategy. The real strategy, the core philosophy of modern cybersecurity, is something called defense in depth. It's the idea that true security only comes from layering your defenses. It's about combining the foundational strength of the fortress with the active protection of the gates and the vigilant human oversight from the watchtower. See, no single layer is ever perfect, but when you put them all together, that's when you create a truly formidable defense. And that brings us to the end of our tour. We've seen the map, from the basic principles all the way to advanced operations. So the only question left, especially for those of you who find this world fascinating, is: are you ready to take the first step on your own journey?